In 2021, a 22-year-old with a computer science degree could choose between 4 job offers: signing bonus, free lunch, a recruiter in the inbox every Tuesday. 5 years later, in April 2026, Stanford published a 500-page report with one number buried inside it. Employment for software developers aged 22 to 25 has fallen nearly 20% since 2024. Now here's the strange part. Over that exact same stretch, employment for developers aged 30 and above kept growing. Same industry, same tools, same year. One group is doing fine, and the group standing directly behind them is watching the door close. That's what this video is actually about. Welcome to Atlas Capital, where we explain the forces shaping tomorrow in a simple way. But first, a quick disclaimer. This is not financial advice. Nothing here is a recommendation to buy anything, sell anything, or choose a career. It's a way of thinking clearly about a shift that is already showing up in the numbers. Most people believe artificial intelligence is coming for their job. And the fear is almost always vertical. One morning, the machine does what you do. Your manager calls you in, and you're gone. But in reality, that's not the shape the data has taken. Total employment in most white-collar fields has held up. Senior people are not being swept out. What's happening is horizontal instead of vertical. The technology is not eating careers, it's eating the entrance to them. All right, but what is an entry-level job, actually? Because we say the phrase constantly without ever defining it. An entry-level job is not really a job. It's a training contract wearing the costume of one. In your first year, you almost certainly cost your employer more than you produce, your salary, your manager's time, the mistakes that get caught in review, the meetings you sit in without speaking. All of that is a subsidy. The company pays it because it expects to earn the money back somewhere between year 3 and year 10, when you finally know things, which means an entry-level hire is an investment with a payback period. That single sentence explains almost everything that follows, which brings us to the first force. The tasks that AI does best are almost exactly the tasks a first-year employee is given. Think about what junior work actually looks like. It's small in scope. It's clearly specified by someone else. It's low context, and it gets reviewed by a more experienced person before it ever reaches a customer. If you were writing a product specification for where a language model creates value today, you would write those 4 lines. Junior work and machine work overlap not by coincidence, but by definition, because both are what a system produces when it can execute, but can it yet be trusted? Goldman Sachs put a figure on it in April 2026. Roughly 16,000 net American jobs lost per month to displacement. 25,000 positions eliminated by substitution, offset by 9,000 created through augmentation. And inside that number sits the detail almost nobody quotes. Workers aged 22 to 30 are being displaced at nearly 3 times the rate of workers aged 40 to 55. The second force is what that does to the payback math. Go back to our training contract. Suppose a tool now handles 60% of what a first year used to do. 2 things happen at once, and they push in the same direction. The subsidy gets bigger because the new hire now contributes less in the early months. And the payback gets slower because the tasks they would have learned from are the ones they no longer do. Meanwhile, that same tool makes your 10-year veteran meaningfully faster. So a manager with a fixed budget faces a very simple comparison. One experienced person plus the software, or that same person plus 2 trainees who will be genuinely useful in 3 years. Under budget pressure, the choice tends to make itself. Picture a restaurant that installs a machine which plates every dish perfectly. Management stops hiring line cooks because plating was what line cooks did. The food goes out fine. It goes out fine for years. And then one evening in the middle of the next decade, the head chef retires, and the owner looks around the kitchen and realizes nobody in the building knows how to run it. The third force is why this has stayed so quiet. It does not look like a wave of layoffs. It looks like nothing at all. There is no press release for a role that simply never gets posted. Entry-level job postings in the United States fell about 15% year over year, while employer job descriptions mentioning AI rose roughly 400% in 2 years. Same employers, same requisition budget, different door. And when Yale analysts went looking for a spike in AI-exposed workers among the unemployed, they didn't find a clear one. Here's the part almost nobody mentions. That absence isn't evidence. The effect is imaginary. It's evidence of what kind of effect it is. You cannot lay off a person you never hired. The displacement is real, but it lands on people who are still counted as students, or as graduates who are still looking, and neither shows up in the headline unemployment rate that markets react to. And that brings us to the fourth force, which is the one that actually matters for the next decade. The bill arrives late. A company that trains no juniors this year loses nothing this year. Its margins improve. Its output holds. The cost appears only when the people it never trained were supposed to have become the senior layer, and there is nobody standing there. That is not a theory. We have watched it happen before, with a start date you can look up. On March 10th, 2000, the NASDAQ closed at 5,048. It was the top. Over the next 2.5 years, the index fell roughly 78%, and by October 2002, the technology industry had shed hundreds of thousands of jobs. Everyone remembers that part. Here's where things get interesting. The second-order effect took years to appear, and it had nothing to do with the people who were fired. It had to do with the 18-year-olds reading the headlines. Between 2000 and 2005, the number of American students declaring computer science as a major collapsed by roughly 60%. Degrees awarded lag enrollment by 4 years, so the number of graduates peaked around 2004 and then fell by about a third by 2009. For most of that decade, the profession quietly stopped manufacturing beginners. Companies weren't short of engineers in 2003. They were laying them off. Then came the smartphone, cloud infrastructure, the social platforms. Between roughly 2010 and 2015, demand for software engineers exploded, and the people companies wanted most were not fresh graduates. They wanted 8 to 12 years of experience. Do the arithmetic on which graduating classes that pointed to. It pointed at exactly the years when almost nobody had enrolled. So you got the bidding wars, the compensation packages that made headlines, companies buying entire small startups purely to acquire 5 or 6 engineers. The shortage did not show up in 2002 when the ladder emptied. It showed up around 2013. 11 years later, on a bill nobody had connected to a decision made in a dorm room in 2001. Crazy, right? The shape today is the same. The cause is not. Last time, the bottom rung emptied because young people chose to walk away from it. This time, they are walking toward it and finding it removed. Now, I want to be straight with you about something because the honest version of this story is less tidy than the version that gets shared. The years from 2022 to 2026 do not contain only artificial intelligence. They also contain the fastest interest rate hiking cycle in 4 decades and a correction from the hiring binge of 2021, when technology companies added staff at a pace they later admitted was indefensible. Separating an AI effect from a rate effect from a hangover effect is genuinely difficult, and anyone who tells you the question is settled is selling you a conclusion. The Yale finding cuts against the alarmist reading, and every major institutional forecast still lands positive. The World Economic Forum projects around 92 million roles, displaced by 2030 against 170 million created, a net gain of 78 million. Every previous automation wave ended with more employment, not less. But a net global gain is an average, and averages don't pay anyone's rent. The person who needed the role that no longer exists does not get to collect the 78 million. So how do you actually apply this? Not by predicting which jobs survive. Forecasts are the one thing this situation punishes hardest. You apply it by making a few decisions now, calmly, that you won't have to make later while you're anxious. The first decision. If you are early in a career, optimize for feedback per week, not for title. You are buying training, so buy the most training per year that you can get. A smaller company where a senior person reviews your work directly every Friday is worth more over 10 years than a prestigious seat where your work disappears into a pipeline and nobody tells you what was wrong with it. The second decision. Attach yourself to outcomes rather than tasks. The tasks are what got compressed. Judgment, context, relationships, and being the person accountable. When a decision goes badly, do not compress at the same rate. And they never have. It's the same distinction that separated the bank teller who counted cash from the manager who decided who got a loan. And the third decision, if you invest. The same force showing up as a missing rung in the labor market is also showing up as expanding margins at very large companies, which is part of why a handful of them now dominate the index that most people hold. Decide your allocation rule today, in writing, before the next earnings headline moves you. Decide once while you're thinking clearly, instead of deciding repeatedly while you're scared. Because the biggest mistakes here won't come from choosing the wrong industry or the wrong degree. They come from behavior, from reacting to a headline at the moment it is loudest, which is almost never the moment it is most useful to react. The latter is being rebuilt in front of us, and the people who do well over the next decade will not be the ones who guess the shape of it correctly. They will be the ones who kept climbing something while everyone else was standing still, waiting to be told which ladder was safe. If this was useful, hit the like button and subscribe so you don't miss the next one. And tell me in the comments, what is the first task in your own job you would hand to a machine tomorrow, and what would you be left doing? And that's all for today. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.